Right. Um, Let me repeat the conclusion of the first part. Yeah, I told you about the consequences of this development of the technology about like cannons and firearms. It's meaningful world history, and like the cannons became widespread. The demand for artillery crews, gunmen, and weapon specialists skyrocketed. There were plenty of people available to fill those roles. Mercenaries were hired regardless of nationality, and knowledge related to the cannons and firearms circulated and spread across borders. Um, in some ways, this even helped reduce certain power imbalances between the states, actually European states. And the problem, however, was that the cost of warfare increased dramatically, and contractors profited from enormously from this new military economy. And ultimately, these technological advances gave early modern Europe a clear strategic advantages over non-European societies. Um, and the second major technological advancement is a paper, and the origins of paper lies in China. And it was invented by the Chinese, transmitted through the Islamic world, Islamic merchants, and eventually reached um, Europe. Compared with the parchment, the great advantage of paper was cost. To produce a 150-page manuscript, you needed the skins of 12 sheep, about 10 sheets of parchment per animal. Paper wasn't as tough as um, parchment, but it was far more flexible and had a smoother, more uniform surface, making it much better suited for printing. Um, Along with the development of paper, the invention of metal movable type was truly revolutionary. You know what? This is about our country, this country, South Korea. I actually not South, but yeah, just in the late Korea is the um before Joseon Dynasty, and so in early Joseon in the late 14th century, uh, um, this was invented by the Koreans, and we used this metal type of printing. It's um, earlier than the Gutenberg, a, a, a century or 100 years, almost 100 years before Gutenberg's metal type. So printing technology using metal type spread through China and eventually took root in Europe by the late 15th century, becoming the foundation of European printing. And this one it was produced in 1377 for the purpose of printing a Buddhist scripture. In 2001, It was inscribed on UNESCO's Memory of the World Register, and it is currently housed in the National Library of France. France? Yeah, France. In the late 19th century, the French diplomat uh, Colin Colin de Plancy acquired it, and it later came into the possession of an antique dealer named Henri Veveru. And according to his will, after he died, it was donated to the National Library of France around 1950. Yeah, that's like national treasure or something like that. So I think it should be returned, right? Um, anyway, so like as the printing industry um expanded, the demand for books grew, and the market became increasingly active because printing connected with road systems, transportation networks, and market routes. It played a major role in facilitating the circulation and exchange of ideas and thoughts. In in 15th century Europe, printing was dominated by works in Latin as well as religious and theological writings. In the 16th century, printing helped disseminate newly edited editions of ancient Latin and Greek texts. In this sense, printing contributed enormously to both the Renaissance movement and the Reformation. This is the earliest version, or earliest printed edition of the Gutenberg Bible, uh, and definitely this Latin Vulgate Bible, and its condition is so good, right? Yeah. Anyway, it is held by the New York Public Library, and all right, and just like artillerymen and cannon specialists, European printers were welcomed in many different regions. And in time, the more advanced European printing technology made its way all the way around the globe and eventually returned to China. However, unlike Europe, China and the broader East did not have conditions that would create a massive surge in demand for books, but Europe did. The printing press effectively supplied the fuel needed for the great fires of the Renaissance and the Reformation, two movements that dramatically increased the appetite for books, learning, and debate. More than paper and or printing, the technology that gave Europe a firm political, economic, social, and cultural advantages was none other than long distance oceanic navigation. Brodel argues that this technology is what ultimately made today's world imbalanced, and that it was the central reason Europe came to hold such a privileged position. Um, in this field as well, Europe's strongest competitor was China. The Chinese were the first to use the compass, beginning as early as the 11th century. By the 14th century, they were sailing large vessels known as junks. Some of these ships were enormous, featuring foot decks, water, watertight bulkheads, 4 to 6 masts, 12 large cannons, and crews that could number up to 1,000. That's too many. Um, they were truly capable of building ships of this scale. During the Southern Song Dynasty or Song period, Chinese ships even drove out Arab vessels from the region. And in the 15th century, China launched the famous voyages of Zheng He. I'm not sure about the exact pronunciation in China, but in Korean we call it Zhonghua. Maybe it's Zheng He is maybe in Chinese. Anyway, under the Ming Dynasty, Zheng He led massive fleets westward, sailing to India and even the east coast of Africa, like this, just like this. And this map shows the routes of Zheng He's voyages. As you can see in the illustration, Zheng He's voyage demonstrates the power of Ming China, especially its shipbuilding capacity and navigational skill. They also show just how influential China was in the Islamic world during this period. But this raises an interesting question. What would have happened if Zheng He's fleet had sailed past the southern tip of Africa, the Cape of Good Hope? Broder poses this question because had they done so, the Chinese might have reached the Pacific from the west, possibly even achieved the first circumnavigation of the globe. Brother says this is actually very simple issue, very simple question. For the Chinese to sail to the western coast of Africa, they would have needed a clear vision, a concrete need or necessity. But as the purpose of Zheng's voyages shows, China didn't have as such needs. They weren't seeking new trade routes, new territories to conquer, or new lands to settle. But the European did. Neither China nor the Islamic world had the necessity or drive for oceanic exploration. Europeans, on the other hand, did have that need, and that is the crucial difference. Um, this map is the like the great discoveries by the Europeans of the New World and the new routes to East India, yeah, like and the routes across the Atlantic. So Zhonghe's of the navigation voyages, if they had reached to the southern part of this one, they would have found the Atlantic Ocean, right? But who knows? After they crossed the Atlantic Oceans, they would have found um, the New World, Americas before Columbus, but they had other opportunities to across the Pacific Oceans. But many people say that we don't need any like if questions like these in history. We don't have to do to have such questions. It's like uh, um yeah, yeah, we we don't have time to discuss such all the like such questions in history. Anyway, China consistently showed a relatively little interest in technological innovation, and one major reason was that it always had an abundant supply of human labor, human power for transportation. And because manpower was plentiful, as we have discussed previously last time, there was less incentive to develop new transport technologies. Europe, however, was in a very different situation. Europeans had strong reasons to seek new trade routes. They wanted to avoid relying on Islamic and Italian merchants who made huge profits through intermediary trades. So the Europe, on top of that, Europe was filled with constant warfare and intense competition, and giving people plenty of motivation to look beyond the continent for alternative and opportunities. But however, Europe's need and ambition alone did not create such superior long distance navigation. Sorry. In fact, as the image shows on the triangular sail, a key technology that made the true oceanic sailing possible was something European ultimately borrowed from non-European cultures. They learned from non-European people about new technologies, um, which enabled Europeans to go further and across the oceans. That's how like triangular sail, and it made it possible to sail against the wind, or at least to advance even when facing headwinds. This capability was crucial for sustained long-range voyages across open seas. Like this diagram shows, this is what we commonly call Bernoulli's principle as part of aerodynamics, because airplane wings has a streamlined cross section. The air flowing over the top travels faster, and the air flowing underneath, and it makes the power to make the plane go up, and the difference in speed of the air creates lift, which makes takeoff much easier. Um, a similar principle applies to the sails on a ship. I skipped the detailed physics here, but to put it simply, you could check it on YouTube. Yeah, it's very ex more complicated than the aerodynamics of the airplanes. Anyway, it's interesting. Just check it out. And I'll just let me just skip. You don't have time to do that. Anyway, using a triangular sail allows the ship to even shoot to sail even against the wind like this. And it's just like the wing of the airplane and the flow of like this, the flow of air and here and here, the difference of the speed of the air makes well, the like say force like this one. Anyway, um, the important point is this: that this crucial technological innovation was something Europeans learned from non-Europeans, and Europeans then applied it extremely effectively, incorporating it into their long-distance open sea navigation. It's like this. They use like a triangular. Uh, so, shall we wrap up this chapter? In one part of the world, I mean, in China especially, technology stagnated. In another, technological innovation and even revolution occurred in, in Western Europe. In China, like the rabbit taking a nap in the fable, there was no strict sense of urgency to run, and for that reason, technological development eventually stalled. Europe, however, had to keep moving as needs were immediate and pressing. And and through this slow but continuous forward motion, through countless small adjustments and improvements, Europe eventually achieved major innovations and even full-scale revolution in technology. In terms of technology, one side never really hit the limits of its possibilities. So there was a little pressure to rely on or improve technology. The other did hit those limits, and because of that, it kept pushing, consistently refining and advancing its techniques. And as a result, it was this side that ultimately transformed the world through innovative technology. Yeah, just remember the title of this book is the first one is the structures of everyday life, but the subtitle is the limits of the possible, right? So just think of the what the title means, especially for today and in this chapter and the previous chapter as about technology and comparison the Europeans with the case of China like it makes understandable to the different to know about the difference between two cultures and their approach to the limits of the possible. All right, that's all for today's class, and I will upload our final lecture by tomorrow. I will also give you some hints for the final exam, so please make sure to review them carefully and prepare well. Thank you. All right, good night. Bye.